We are living in an era of unprecedented medical advancement, yet we have never been more profoundly sick, exhausted, and fundamentally broken. For decades, the towering institutions of modern medicine have sold us a tragic illusion, convincing the masses that true healing comes only from sterile laboratories and synthesized chemicals packaged in plastic. But deep within the shadowed archives of antiquity, buried beneath layers of forgotten history and misunderstood parables, lies a devastatingly powerful biological truth that the ancient healers desperately tried to preserve. The ultimate blueprint for human longevity, the precise chemical codes required to repair fractured DNA and reverse the ruthless decay of time, were not discovered under a microscope. They were served on a rough-hewn wooden table in the dusty, sun-baked landscape of the Levant over 2,000 years ago. The meals consumed by the most pivotal figure in human history were not merely physical sustenance designed to fill a hollow stomach. They were a meticulously orchestrated protocol of biological armor designed to fortify the fragile human vessel against disease and spiritual exhaustion. Welcome to Lone Oak Remedies, where we fiercely reject the artificial solutions of the modern age and unearth the sacred, buried wisdom of the earth to heal the modern soul. Today, we journey into the hidden biochemical genius of the ancient world to reveal 5 specific, sacred meals that modern doctors, cardiologists, and neurologists are now frantically studying and begging their patients to consume. To comprehend the sheer, staggering magnitude of this ancient dietary architecture, we must first examine the profound mystery of the resurrection meal. When you strip away the theological layers of the narrative found by the shores of the Sea of Galilee, you are left with a shockingly specific combination of foods: broiled fish and raw, wild honeycomb. For centuries, this pairing was viewed merely as a detail of the story, but modern neuroscience has recently uncovered the terrifyingly brilliant mechanics behind this exact meal. The fish pulled from those ancient, mineral-rich waters were absolutely saturated with critical omega-3 fatty acids, specifically docosahexaenoic acid, or DHA. This is not the oxidized, rancid fish oil sold in modern plastic capsules. This was pure, uncorrupted bioelectrical fuel for the human nervous system. When the body undergoes catastrophic physical trauma or immense psychological shock, the myelin sheath that protects our nerve cells is violently degraded. The ancients inherently knew that consuming the silvery flesh of the sea provided the exact building blocks required to instantly cross the blood-brain barrier and reconstruct damaged neural pathways. But the true alchemy occurs when this is paired with the golden nectar of the hive. The wild honeycomb of the ancient Middle East was a living substance, teeming with raw, unheated enzymes, profound antibacterial properties, and complex sugars that modern science identifies as immediate, clean fuel for cellular mitochondria. When the pure DHA from the fish is driven into the cells by the enzymatic delivery system of the raw honeycomb, it violently reduces systemic inflammation and immediately stabilizes the heart's rhythm. It is a biological resurrection protocol, an impenetrable shield forged around the heart and mind, and it is a meal that modern cardiologists are now realizing can rapidly reverse the inflammatory damage caused by our toxic modern diets. Moving deeper into the dietary foundations of antiquity, we must confront the absolute tragedy of what the modern world has done to the staff of life. The bread sitting on grocery store shelves today is a lifeless, chemically bleached, genetically altered shadow of what our ancestors consumed. But the bread that anchored the Galilean table was a completely different biological entity. It was the sprouted, fiercely fermented loaves of ancient, unhybridized grains like barley, spelt, and einkorn. The ancient women who ground this grain between heavy stones and left the dough to rise in the warm, ambient air were unknowingly performing advanced biotechnology. By allowing the wild yeasts and bacteria of the air to ferment the dough over long hours, they neutralized the phytic acid that blocks mineral absorption and forcefully broke down the complex gluten proteins that absolutely shred the modern human gut. This ancient bread was alive, a breathing microcosm of gut-healing probiotics and indestructible prebiotic fibers. Gastroenterologists today are begging their patients suffering from crippling autoimmune diseases, chronic fatigue, and severe digestive disorders to return to this agonizingly slow ancient fermentation process. They are realizing that when you consume living, sprouted grains, you repopulate your internal microbiome with the exact, ruthless microbial warriors that protected the ancients from the devastating plagues of their time. It is not merely food. It is a daily, deliberate seeding of the gut with the flora required to manufacture serotonin, balance hormones, and erect an invisible wall against invading pathogens. Flowing naturally from the grains harvested from the golden fields, we find the absolute liquid gold of the Mediterranean ecosystem, a substance so highly revered it was used to anoint kings and heal the dying. Cold-pressed, unfiltered olive oil in the bitter brined olive itself. Consider the profound historical weight of the Garden of Gethsemane, an ancient, shaded grove of olive trees where the physical and spiritual weight of the world was brought to bear. The symbolism is inescapable, but the biological reality of the olive tree is even more astonishing. The oil extracted from these ancient, gnarled trees, crushed by heavy stones and shielded from the oxidizing effects of heat and light, is incredibly rich in a deeply pungent, natural phenolic compound known as oleocanthal. The moment this liquid touches the back of your throat, causing that familiar, sharp, peppery burn, you are experiencing a chemical reaction that has stunned modern researchers. Oleocanthal possesses the exact same anti-inflammatory, pain-crushing mechanisms as modern synthetic drugs like ibuprofen, but with a critical, life-saving difference. Instead of toxifying the liver and destroying the stomach lining, the ancient olive actually regenerates hepatic tissue and soothes the digestive tract. The ancients bathed their deep wounds in it, burned it for pure light in the darkness, and consumed it in massive quantities daily. By doing so, they effectively lubricated their entire cardiovascular system, crushed the joint pain of relentless physical labor, and preserved their cellular youth against the baking, unforgiving sun of the desert landscape. It is the ultimate biological lubricant, a sacred fat that dissolves arterial plaque and fortifies the cellular membrane against the chaotic, oxidizing forces of the environment. As we transition from the savory staples of the ancient hearth to the medicinal sweets that shaded ancient courtyards, we look to the wild fruits of the region. The fig and the pomegranate were not mere treats or casual snacks. They were the absolute heavyweights of the ancient botanical apothecary. The deep, blood-red, jewel-like arils of the wild pomegranate contain punicalagins, compounds so violently antioxidant and highly specialized that modern oncologists and longevity researchers study them in a state of sheer awe. When these compounds enter the human bloodstream, they actively hunt down free radicals and possess the terrifying ability to force mutated, damaged cells into a state of apoptosis or programmed cellular suicide. It is a targeted, biological cleansing fire. The fig, incredibly dense with potassium, magnesium, and indestructible fiber, was historically used as a powerful drawing poultice for deep, life-threatening infections. But when consumed daily, it acts as a master regulator of human blood pressure and deep cellular hydration. Together, the fig and the pomegranate represent a masterclass in cellular defense. They were strategically consumed to protect the fragile human DNA from the catastrophic oxidative stress that drives premature aging, ensuring that the physical vessel remained resilient, vibrant, and capable of enduring the immense physical hardships of the ancient world. Finally, our journey through the historical archives of healing brings us to the most sacred, biologically complex, and fiercely guarded meal of the entire biblical narrative, the roasted lamb consumed with intensely bitter herbs. This was the Passover protocol, a meal designed not just as a feast of spiritual deliverance, but as a masterstroke of biological warfare against the parasites, pathogens, and exhaustion that plagued ancient populations. The grass-fed, naturally raised lamb provided highly bioavailable zinc, iron, and the crucial, complex amino acids absolutely necessary for deep muscle repair, the synthesis of powerful neurotransmitters, and aggressive, unyielding immune function. But the true, hidden, devastating genius of this meal lies in the bitter herbs. Wild dandelion, untamed endive, and prickly lettuce gathered from the harsh, untamed edges of the wilderness. In our modern, sugar-addicted world, we have completely eradicated the flavor of bitterness from our diets, and our livers are paying a horrific price. Modern herbalists and behavioral psychologists understand that the moment extreme, wild bitterness touches the receptors on the human tongue, it instantly triggers a massive electrical signal through the vagus nerve. This commands the liver and gallbladder to rapidly contract and release a massive, sweeping flood of purifying bile into the digestive tract. This mechanical action aggressively purges accumulated heavy metals, dead cellular waste, and environmental toxins from the body, while forcefully preparing the gut to flawlessly absorb the heavy, life-giving proteins of the meat. It is a perfectly balanced, divinely inspired biochemical equation designed to rapidly flush the organs and sustain the human vessel through the harshest of physical trials and the longest of journeys. These 5 sacred meals are not dusty, irrelevant relics of a primitive, bygone era. They are a living, breathing testament to a time when food, medicine, and faith were completely indistinguishable from one another. By boldly reclaiming these holy foods, we do not merely change our diet. We literally resurrect the body's innate, divine ability to aggressively heal itself from the inside out. The modern world is chronically sick, desperately inflamed, and spiritually exhausted. But the ancient, perfect cures are still growing silently from the earth, waiting patiently in the shadows to be harvested by those with the courage and the eyes to see. Do not let this vital, life-saving knowledge slip back into the dark, forgotten corners of history. Your body is desperate for the sacred fuel it was designed to run on. Subscribe to Lone Oak Remedies right now and join our growing community on this relentless, unyielding journey to reclaim the lost botanical wisdom of the ancient world and violently fortify your body against the decay of the modern age.